a shadow worker. I am a community builder. So similar to Anne, we each have our own meetups. And my passion is teaching people, and this is my journey as well, continuing, teaching people how to unleash their weirdness. How to lean into your weirdness, what is truly and essentially you. And this talk is actually a wonderful transition from what Anne was talking about just a little bit ago, which is, what would it be like if we had a life that was frictionless, or almost friction-free? That perhaps the definition of happiness or true spiritual growth or quote-unquote enlightenment would be that we could go through our day smoothly without getting triggered, without having like, or strong emotional, so-called negative reactions to people. And so that's exactly what we're going to be doing today, and I'm going to be teaching you an amazing tool that's actually what I use in my sessions with people, which is what I've been doing on myself since I was 15 years old, just because I came onto the planet with these skills and this information, this wisdom, which is how to defuse, as if you're defusing a bomb, a trigger, how to defuse anything that shows up for you, because everything, and again, as we've heard earlier today, everything that shows up for us in our reality shows up for us and not to us, and nothing is new. No feeling that you have is new, and it all relates back to your early life, to your childhood, to past lives, which are then reflected into your early life. So let's just talk a little bit about what that means and what the shadow is. So a lot of people, when they would hear shadow, or they think I'm a shadow worker, it's like this really dark thing, which is kind of cool because it gets people to be curious about it. But really what the shadow is the following. So you are born, you come to this planet with a 360-degree personality. You're whole, you're luminous, there's no fragmentation in you. You're not distant and separate from your desires. You act out of your desires. You cry when you want to cry, right? There's no separation between your internal world, your internal experience, and then what you express. But the thing is, no human parent wants a 360-degree personality. No human parent can deal, even the most amazing parent. None of us, and I hope to be a parent in the next few years. I'm actually getting married next weekend. So, yeah, it's good practice to be here and do this event today for next weekend for me, so thanks for that. So I hope to be a parent soon. I know that I'm not going to be able to handle, and this is painful, right? I'm not going to be able to handle a 360-degree being in my life. So what happens is that we start to put certain aspects of ourselves away. We start to put aspects of ourselves, and this is completely unconscious and automatic, and we put them away into what is called our shadow. So the shadow is the collective of unconscious aspects of you that were not able to be seen, acknowledged, recognized when you were a child. So the shadow is actually your buried treasure. It is your gold. It is where your true self is that could not be seen when you were young. And so that means that for the extreme majority of us, that's where our intuitive gifts are. They're in our shadow. We were not seen as the sensitive beings that we are as we came in. So we put that sensitivity into our shadow. We weren't seen as the powerful beings that we were, so we put that power into our shadow. And I'm going to describe this by telling you a little bit about my own story and my own shadow. I'm going to just skip through a couple slides here just to get to this compelling picture right here. So all of you in this room are empaths. All of you are intuitive, so you can read this picture pretty well. That is my mom, that's my dad, and that's me. So I came onto this planet, and all of this I know, of course, in retrospect. I didn't know this when I was that age. So I came onto this planet completely wide open and completely sensitive and feeling absolutely everything. So my gift that I was born with that I know now, this is how I know how to talk about it now after many, many years of work, is that I intuitively, psychically see your shadow. I see the aspects of you that you've put away. And this has been very difficult in my life. It's been beautiful and difficult, and it made my childhood look something like this. So you can imagine when you're seeing somebody's pain, when you see, because I see people's repressed pain, and that is my job now, and it's the most beautiful work for me, of course, in the world, and it just brings me so much energy and joy to do it, but it is very difficult to see and feel everybody else's repressed pain and not be recognized for doing that, right? So what happened, and I'm sharing this story because I know you can relate to it, and I hope that you feel seen by me sharing my own story. So this is actually very extended family. This is like my dad's like cousin and his family in Hawaii, and but it's, I love this picture because that's just how I was like. I went into self-soothing all the time. I was basically off by myself all the time in nature all the time, and I separated myself from people because I was just so sensitive. And you can see, so part of my gift is it's like when I'm talking to somebody and I can feel their shadow, it feels like, and it's like music is playing in the background really loud. And the more pain the person, the more trauma the person has in their background, the more dissonant and loud the music is. The more they're trying to cover it up like this, that's the hardest thing in the world, and I can't be around those people. I just kind of have to politely excuse myself if there's the mask on, and I can feel the dissonant music playing. So there's a lot of pain in this family in the foreground. As you can feel, right? You can feel it. If you allow yourself to open to feeling it, because you guys can, you are so psychic, and you can feel it. And that's just how I coped. So what that I was about 4 years old then, and I know that because by the time I was 5, I put that sensitivity into my shadow, and I became basically a little boy, because it was easier to be hard, to be tough, to be basically like what we now know as gender non-conforming, but I definitely knew that. Like I played with dinosaurs, but only the fiercest dinosaurs, and Ninja Turtles, and I was born in '84, so I think there's a lot of you born around similar times, so you know Ninja Turtles. But anyway, I was lucky enough to be raised by a mom and go to private school until 4th grade, where I could basically dress like what I wanted to and be myself. But I just so I put on a persona. So I developed what we all do, which was this false self, this persona that is very good at hiding the repressed pain, the true self. And this was my quote-unquote low point. So it's actually my career high point, as people would usually say. If I showed somebody my 10-page curriculum vitae, they would say this was my success point. So super fast forward, super long story short, that hardenedness that I put on as my persona to hide that repressed pain, how I then manifested that is, by the time I was a teenager, I started meditating. I started doing yoga, really hardcore. And I did it to control myself. I did it because I'd learned at a very early age to censor and deny my internal experience, as we all do when we're really sensitive, right? And so yoga and meditation has given me many gifts, and certainly they're not bad in themselves, but how I personally used it was to control my emotions, because I was feeling so much all the time. I was like, and I know you guys can relate to this, some of you you do this too. I was like, I feel this emotion arising in me, so I'm gonna go take care of myself. Go off by myself in my room and meditate, and I come out all controlled and better and smiling. Hi, I'm ready for anything. But really, I was just pressing it down and pressing it down, pressing it down. And so what this, the yoga and meditation control mechanism, and of course the yoga was about controlling my body, controlling my presentation. And I still struggle with this. This is not something that's, I'm still in a body, I'm still learning. I still struggle with this. And so what that allowed me to do, to have that control mechanism, was to keep taking my drug of choice, which was hyperachievement, overachievement. So by the time I was 26 years old, I was full-time faculty at Oregon State University teaching German and German studies. Of course, that hardened culture, the German is beautiful and can be very soft, but generally speaking, anybody's German or Austrian, so I did live in Austria for 2 years, but that was very familiar, that energy was very familiar to me, the regimented and the controlled. And so that's one of the reasons I went into German. And so anyway, so this is a picture of me with my face on the cover of Oregon State. Oregon State has about 30,000 students. It's a huge research institution. This was about when I won my 4th or 5th campus-wide teaching award. I was one of the most popular instructors on campus. My classes always filled up. I was a mini celebrity on campus, and I was depressed. So I didn't know I was depressed because I was doing my yoga, and I was doing my meditation, and I was doing just fine, right? But then I just reached a point where I realized I noticed this hopelessness in me, and I knew that there was something calling me, that I needed to work deeply with people. And I was teaching classes of 30 and 40 students, 4 classes a term. And students would come to my office hours, and I would know exactly what was going on with them. I would want to say, sweetheart, you're struggling with suicidality, aren't you? Or, sweetheart, your parents have abandoned you and you're here all by yourself trying to fulfill your dreams. How are you with that? And I couldn't, because that wasn't part of my job description, right? It was actually a violation of my job description. I had to send them to the counseling center. So part of me knew this is what I was doing, and I had been an astrologer since 2008, kind of practicing in the closet with people. But astrology can be very cerebral, and I was practicing it in a very cerebral kind of way, because it was safe and kind of intellectual. So anyway, I love this picture because I'm hiding. It's just perfect, right? So you have my hiding, smiling face on the cover of the eCampus. So I was famous for developing online curricula for German and German studies for Oregon State. That's why I got my face on the cover. And those of you I know a lot of people in this room, you're like, I didn't know this about you. So I have a question for you guys. So you saw this was my persona. So my persona as the under control, hyper-achieving, hyper-intelligent, hyper-successful person. And you all have personas. In fact, we need personas, which you could also call the false self, to exist in society. So you have a personal shadow, right? Societies, cultures have a shadow. Your town has a shadow. We all, institutions and countries and cultures, all have things that we don't like to accept about ourselves, things that aren't acceptable. So I'd like you to just write down in your notebook, and this will be a way for you to really get at what was not acceptable for you and what your persona is. So write down, what did you have to do from your childhood perspective to get love from your parents? What did you have to do to get love from your parents? Or in other words, who did you have to be to get love from your parents? You can just write down a few attributes or traits. So for me, I had to be controlled. I had to be perfect, successful. When I got straight A's, I just got, from my dad. So nothing was good enough, so I had to be beyond reproach in every way. And so now write down, who could you not be if you wanted to be loved by your parents? What are some things that you could not be? So for me, I couldn't take up space. I couldn't have opinions. And so I'd like you to just look at that list, and we're kind of going on the faster side because I know we went a little over time earlier. So look at the list of things you could not be. And I bet you, in fact, I bet you 100%, or I bet you $100 that list of qualities is what you can't stand in other people. So before I really started doing shadow work intensively with myself, I couldn't stand people who were loud, especially males who would walk into a room and just kind of feel like they looked like they were like owning the place, you know? And when I really got wise that I realized that's exactly how I couldn't be as a kid. That's exactly how I couldn't be. So this is the point where I'd like you to integrate the app a little bit, because I have a list that was just posted by Jack on the app about ways that the shadow speaks in our lives, and it's on the app. So if you guys would like to engage with the app, you can open it. It should be right there on the feed. You guys see it? Is it there? Yeah, exactly. It's a graphic that I made. It looks like that. It looks like a sunset with some words on it.
You can search my name and it should come up.
It's is it Jack Brunell? Is that who posted it? Okay, it's under Jack Brunell. Okay, so for those of you who just want to hear me speak it, I do have it here too. So our judgments of other people, just like you discovered in your list of what you couldn't be as a child, our judgments of other people is just one way, and it's kind of the easiest way to see how our shadow is arising. So the truth is the universe, like your soul wants to be whole. Your soul has a natural desire and tendency to be that 360-degree personality. And so this stuff will start to come up. You'll start to have the reactions, the strong emotional reactions. You'll have the dreams. You'll have these ways of shadows speaking to you because it wants to reunite with you. It's like part of you that wants to come back into your awareness. So that first way that our shadow speaks, that we can see our shadow, is in those strong emotional reactions to people, especially our judgments of them. And then secondly, in our repulsions and obsessions, especially related to other people. So for example, I'll use Sheila. she's not here, she's in the other room. But she and I talk about this a lot. So I remember when I first met Sheila, and I just kind of idolized her, right? So oh my God, she's so badass. She's just so powerful and amazing, and I love Sheila so much, and we're really close friends. But there was a level of obsession I had with Sheila when I first met her that was it was a little bit over the top. And no, she totally knows. We totally talk about this. And then I realized that I was shadow projecting onto Sheila. So shadow projection is when and it can be negative or positive. So shadow projection negatively is when you can't stand something about somebody like we talked about, right? But a positive shadow projection is just as potent. It's when you idolize somebody because you're not ready to accept that quality is actually in you. So it's easier to see it on them. So celebrity worship, if you have celebrities that you're really into, maybe a little too much, or something like that, or people that's just you just kind of want to eat them up. Well, it's because you want to integrate them. You want their energy. Your shadow is wanting to come back through your awareness of them. Yeah. So the other way that speaks is in mental, emotional, and physical distress. Illness, I could hold 6 workshops about this at least. So in illness, in our emotional issues. So most of the people who come to my private practice are light workers, although they might not know it yet, because I'm a light worker catalyst. That's just what I've learned about the people. I didn't decide to be a light worker catalyst. I just know that the people who show up for me in my private practice are incredibly sensitive, and they have gifts, and they just need that last little push to get through, but they often struggle with anxiety, depression, PTSD, or complex PTSD, which means ongoing, smaller trauma with a lowercase t, and that's what I have, for example, instead of a big trauma with a capital T. These are just the people who tend to come to my practice, and I see them transform and really jump into their gifts and get integrated. But they do have these emotional distress is usually how their shadow shows up. So difficult relational behavioral patterns, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Your partner is your shadow, by the way. If you're in a partnership, that's the most exquisite place to do shadow work. I notice that the thing that annoys me most about my fiance, Carlos, is that he just goes from one activity to the other in a flow, and he does so much, and he doesn't check in with me. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I grew up as a hyper-vigilant child that completely adapted to the needs of other people. So that's exactly what I couldn't be. I couldn't just do what I wanted and go into a flow, right? And that's what got me most about him. And as soon as I realized that, that trigger completely dissolved. It doesn't bother me anymore. He can just be himself. And so that's why we have an awesome relationship, because we both do this work. And then finally, in dreams, your shadow speaks. Talk to Michael. Michael changed my life, by the way. I've been working with him for a long time. So I'd like to lead you guys today through regression, which is just a little mini tip of the iceberg thing that I do in my practice with most people who see me. And it's a way that you can use to defuse any trigger that you have. And so I encourage you, because it's the end of the day, you've had really an immense day today, to pick something that isn't the biggest trigger, that isn't the trauma, the biggest trauma, but maybe something that just irks you. Maybe something when you're driving, or something with your partner, or that they just do this thing and you just, Or you can pick something that just keeps coming up and you keep thinking about it. Does that make sense? So just what we're gonna do in this regression is emotional surgery, is another name for it. So we're gonna be taking this thing and feeling it, and I'll ask you to feel it as much as you can, and expand it and expand it, expand it, and soften your resistance to feeling that annoyance or that anger, that irritability, whatever you feel about that trigger. And then I'll ask you to identify that feeling signature and follow that down into an earlier memory, any time in your life where you felt something similar. Because this feeling isn't new. No feeling is new. No feeling is new. And so we follow the trail of breadcrumbs further and further down until we get to a root memory, and then we work with that. Does that make sense? Again, it's the end of the day, don't pick the hardest thing. And my sessions are usually extremely emotional, lots of tears. I'm not going to do that to you today. People tell me that I'm the tear whisperer, and they cry with me when they've never cried with anybody else about this thing or anything else. But we don't have to do that today. So just get really comfortable, sit up tall in your seat. If you're comfortable like this, you can put your feet on the floor. This is really just about you being able to be comfortable and present. And just close your eyes and start to take some deep breaths. And really feel where the surface of your body contacts the chair. Feel the weight of your body there. And start to breathe a little bit slower, a little bit deeper into your belly. And then when you're ready, let this irksome, annoying thing arise in your awareness. And feel your body as if you're experiencing it right now. Paying attention to what your body is doing. And just breathe into it. And as if you're breathing on the embers of a fire, with every exhale, feel that feeling getting more intense, just to the level of your comfort right now. Maybe just slightly out of your comfort zone, not a huge amount. Just keep breathing and feel that feeling leave the contours of your body and expand this room, just knowing that it's not going to hurt anybody else. Let it go as far as it needs to go. Notice if it has a color, maybe a form. And then allow some words to arise that might describe it. Name it. And see if you can release any resistance to feeling this feeling as much as it can be felt in this moment. Just keep letting it go, knowing its name. Identifying this feeling signature. What is it? And now, just very naturally and organically, without thinking of what the right thing might be, allow an earlier memory from any time in your life that shares this feeling signature where you felt similar, to just be in your awareness now. You might be surprised by what it is, or maybe not. And now we'll do the same thing. So in this new memory, start to feel what this instance of this feeling signature feels like, and like blowing on embers of a fire, start to expand it to its full potential. Let it leave the confines of your body. Notice the color. Keep breathing into your belly. And soften resistance, if you can, to feeling it fully. And name this feeling. And we'll do this at least one more time. So now allow an earlier memory with this similar feeling signature to arise without attachment to what it should be. And feel you in that memory at that time. And start to expand that feeling as much as you can. This might be difficult. Just do your best. See this feeling leave the contours of your body. Expand it out. And if you can, feel it intensely. Notice if this has a color, a form. What is the name of this feeling? And now I'd like you to do something a little bit different. Stay in the state you're in. And see the scene freeze. You may or may not see your childhood self. Everything that arises is perfect. But allow everything to freeze besides the version of you in this memory. And see the most strong, capable, and beautiful version of your adult self coming into the scene. And the version of you, perhaps your childhood self, is looking and seeing you come in. And as much as you can, make eye contact with your memory self. Perhaps your child self. See if they're willing to make eye contact with you back, and if not, that's perfectly fine. And as you keep breathing and really staying with this, and if it fades, that's okay. Just do your best to bring it back. Look deeply into the other version of yourself's eyes. Look very deeply into their eyes if you can. If you can't see their eyes, just acknowledge that it's hard to see their eyes, and that's okay. And just keep looking into their eyes as much as you can and see what you see. And then see even deeper. And then see even deeper into them. And feel your heart, the heart of that adult version of you in the scene, just going out to them. Feeling for them. And silently and telepathically ask the younger version of you, what do you need right now? What do you really need right now? If I could give you anything, what would that be? See if they have an answer for you. And if they do, see yourself providing that need for them, meeting that need. Perhaps it's just being there and seeing them, maybe an outstretched hand or a hug. Maybe it's taking them somewhere else or something else. And really open your heart to experiencing what it feels like to meet this need of your younger self. Really let it in. Allow any resistance you might be feeling to melt as much as you can. Just breathe into it. How does it feel to see this younger version of you and to love them, to be there for them when nobody else could? And just keep breathing, feeling this closeness with yourself. See if you can let it into your heart anymore, soften into it anymore. Just notice the tenderness that's there. And then again, telepathically, just communicate to this version of you that you're not leaving. Even when your adult self in this room has to shift your awareness, there's no way you can leave them ever again. They are in you. They are in your heart. You will always be with them. And just make sure they realize this. And when you feel like they know this, that you're always with them, just feel them start to merge into you so that you become one. You integrate. And taking really deep breaths, just feeling the sweetness, whatever else comes up for you. Feel your feet on the ground and very slowly come back to your body right now. Opening your eyes whenever you're ready. And congratulations, you just integrated a lost part of yourself. And you can do this anytime you wish. Whenever something speaks to you, gets to you, triggers you, this is the way to come home to yourself, to love yourself, and to integrate with yourself. So thank you all so much.